Today is lecture number 12 and 13 of this Introduction to Physical Metallurgy class. And today's topic are like this, that is allotropism in pure iron and its consequences, like what happened to the diffusivity, what happens to the solubility, and what happened to the grain refinement if there will be a change in crystal structure of the pure iron, and also magnetism. And solid crystal versus liquid crystals, we'll see that, and we'll see 2D crystals, we'll see 3D crystals, or instead of 2D crystals you can say 2D lattices, 3D lattices, and better to write lattices, yeah, 2D lattice and 3D lattice. And different symmetry in crystals and 14 Bravais lattices. So if you remember in the previous lecture, that is lecture number 11, where we were talking about different crystal structure of a particular element at different temperature. I have also given you few examples if you remember. The best example is the tin, where above 13.2 degrees centigrade, the tin remains in which crystalline form? Anybody remember?
Diamond cubic.
Above 13.2 degrees centigrade. It is BCT, body center tetragonal, right? But the moment the temperature is going below 13.2, it becomes diamond cubic. It is okay?
Yes, sir.
Anybody remember what are the different consequences of this kind of change in crystal structure? What happened to the tin?
Sir,
There
it
is a change
breaks
in
into
density,
multiple
right?
pieces.
Sir, it becomes
Yes. There is a
brittle.
change in density
So they become
that leads
brittle
to
in
the,
itself.
yeah, very good, very good. So there is a change in density. The density decreases to a large extent, right? But in the other way, we can say there is an increase in volume of the tin due to this kind of phase transformation or due to this kind of change in crystal structure, right? So it disintegrates into small fragments due to increase in the volume, right? And another important point is due to this kind of behavior also, the tin becomes semiconductor. That is the other part. Initially, tin, you understand, tin is a metal, so it has metallic bonding, so it behaves as a metal above 13.2 degrees centigrade when it is in body centered tetragonal structure. But the moment below 13.2, when it becomes your diamond cubic, then it becomes semiconductor due to the covalent characteristics of the bonding, right? Because if you remember, diamond have a very strong covalent bonding, right? So structure is diamond cubic, so behavior becomes like that. Again, it becomes semiconductor, right? Other examples, if you remember, in case of cobalt also shows this kind of behavior. Different crystal structure at different temperature. Cobalt, like above 450 degrees centigrade, basically. Cobalt at the room temperature is basically hexagonal closed pack structure. Right? But the moment you increase the temperature above 450 degrees centigrade, it becomes basically FCC, phase centered cubic structure. Fine. Yeah, you have any question? But if you consider again titanium, right? The titanium have basically a crystal structure of HCP again, hexagonal closed pack structure. But the moment the titanium is above nearly 850 degree or 840 degree centigrade, it becomes
BCC.
BCC. Very good. Body centered cubic structure. So, and the best example we have is the pure iron. pure iron, or it may not be pure iron, but we'll discuss about the pure iron. Pure iron also shows this kind of change in crystal structure if there is a change in pressure or if there is a change in temperature. But basically, since we are dealing with atmospheric pressure, so we basically keep the pressure constant, that is one atmospheric pressure, right? And we change the temperature of the iron, and we'll see at different temperature of pure iron, it shows different crystal structures. But in this part, I'll show you both change in pressure and both change in temperature, how we have different crystal structure of pure iron. So that's I can call allotropes of pure iron. Obviously, allotropes means what? Same chemical element, or here that is a single metal but showing different physical forms or different crystalline forms or crystal structures, right? So crystal structure is changing. So this is also called phase transformation in metallurgy, right? Phase transformation means the crystal structure will change depending upon the situation, depending upon the change in temperature, change in pressure. So this is a very beautiful diagram. You can see this is the temperature axis and this is the pressure axis. So y-axis is temperature, x-axis is the pressure, and pressure is taken in kilobar pressure. We are considering very high pressure, kilobar, that's why. And temperature in degrees centigrade, right? So you can see if you can see this is the plot. This is the curve. The curve starts from here. It is moving like this up to this much of pressure, and it goes down like this, and it moves here up to this, and in the top part you can see it is starting from here and moving up to this much, right? So what it is showing, basically it is showing that the pure iron can have three different crystalline structures or crystal structures. What are those three different? One is, you can see this is what? Which kind of crystal structure? This one? Body centered cubic. Very good. Because
BCC.
yes, BCC, body centered cubic. And this is also called alpha iron. You have to remember. If you remember, this is called alpha iron, that is body centered cubic. Again, body centered cubic also exists at a very high temperature. This is basically above 1396 up to melting point. You have to remember. So that means from the room, suppose I am talking about only temperature, keeping the pressure 1 atmospheric pressure. So if I will start from 0 degrees centigrade, so first I will get alpha iron. That is called body centered cubic iron. So iron atoms will be arranged in body centered cubic fashion. One atom will be at the center of the cube and other atoms are at the corners of the cube. 8 corners, fine. But the moment I will hit it to a temperature up to 910 to 912 degrees centigrade, the crystal structure of pure iron changes to which one? This one. FCC.
FCC.
Very good. Phase centered cubic structure. That means 8 atoms are at the 8 corners of the cube, but each phase center will be having one atom, right? You can see. So that is technically called gamma iron. Fine. This is represented by this Greek alphabet, gamma. Fine. You can see the gamma region is very big, basically. Very big region, gamma. Then the moment the iron is heated to a temperature just above 1396 or 1395 degrees centigrade, then it becoming again BCC. Again, it becomes body centered cubic structure. That is called delta iron. Okay. So that's why we can have a low temperature BCC iron, that is called alpha iron. We can have a high temperature BCC iron, that is called delta iron, right? But in between them, we have a gamma iron, that is phase centered cubic iron, right? But if now I will consider increasing in the pressure as well as temperature, what I will see, you can see above, like it is above 110 kilobar pressure, for example. Above 110 kilobar pressure, the iron exists in hexagonal close pack structure. That is called epsilon iron. This one, epsilon iron, right? So in total, if I will see, the iron have three crystal structures. One is body centered cubic, one is face centered cubic, one is HCP, hexagonal close pack structure, right? That means hexagonal close pack structure will be obtained if the pressure will be very high. That is above like 110 kilobar. You can understand, very high pressure, which basically you can get that kind of pressure at the center of the earth or in the inner core of the earth, basically, or in the outer core region, basically. And that much of temperature is also available anyways. So I think you people understood this one. Up to this, it is okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so now the question will be whether this kind of change in crystal structure will have some advantage or not. This is the question now. Of course, this kind of different crystal structure at different temperature and pressure are advantages actually. That's why we have lot of applications by using this kind of pure, not pure iron, this kind of steels. We are using steels because of this kind of thing actually, this kind of phase transformation actually. I will talk right now. Okay, so first consequence I can talk about is this one, what I've written, diffusivity. Okay, you people have remembered about the diffusivity. So you have BCC iron and you have FCC iron. So where diffusivity will be higher?
BCC.
BCC. Why? What is the reason? I have
Because
told
it is
you many times.
open packed structure.
Yes,
Very
sir.
good. Because it is an open structure, right? That means, okay, can anybody justify how this is an open structure? If I'll ask why BCC is an open structure, why this FCC is a closed packed structure? Just look at the diagram. Yes.
So due to the placement of the atoms.
Due to this,
Due to the
as in
placement of the
BCC structure,
atoms.
only single electron is present.
Okay. Just have a look. If you see, this is just an unit cell. Yes or no?
So they are free to move.
Free to move. No. I am talking about why BCC is an open structure, why FCC is a closed packed structure. So just look at the structures. Look at the unit cell. So both are cubic. Yes or no? Both are cubes. But in this cube, the number of atoms are less, and here in this cube, number of atoms are more. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Right? So in a same space, in a same volume, you have more number of atoms in the FCC, right? But in this same volume, we have less number of atoms. So that means more number of voids are present in which case? BCC? Yes?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
But in case of FCC, the less number of voids are there. So that's why obviously this will be a closed packed structure. So that's why other name of FCC is called CCP, cubic closed packed
packed
structure.
structure.
Very good, very good. So BCC is not a cubic closed packed structure. BCC is a only body centered cubic open structure. So diffusivity will be good in case of FCC. It will be poor. It will be poor in case of FCC. It will be good in case of BCC. So that is why, suppose you want to use a steel for a high temperature applications. Suppose temperature is nearly 1100 degrees centigrade. So we need which kind of structure of steel in that condition? It should remain in FCC form. Very good. So that we can prevent we can provide a resistance to diffusivity, so that the material will not fail by creep mechanism. Because creep mechanisms occurs at a very high temperature due to diffusion of atoms. So we don't want diffusion to be faster at high temperature. So we can have a FCC structure at high temperature of steel. Right? Okay, you people have understood this one. And second one, consequence is solubility. So can you guess in which case solubility? Suppose you have pure iron now, and I want to add some carbon into it, right? So carbon is a different element. It will go and it will become soluble, right? So in which case solubility will be more, in FCC iron or in BCC iron?
So BCC.
BCC, okay. BCC, BCC, okay. Okay, fine. Obviously, you people will say BCC, but the answer is completely wrong. You people are thinking that since more number of voids are available in BCC, it is an open structure, the solubility will be more. But that is not the answer. Actually, solubility of element will depends upon the size of the void present. It do not depends upon the amount of voids. Anybody guess why it is so? Any guess? In the school days, how many of you have gone through, I mean in the 12th or 11th, how many of you have gone through those voids in crystals? Octahedral voids, tetrahedral voids. Any of you have gone through that? Anyways, the thing is what? Solubility of elements into the pure iron here depends upon the size of the void. The size of the void is bigger in FCC comparable to that of BCC. So again, even if FCC iron is a close packed structure, but the size of the void is bigger one. So again, solubility will be higher in FCC iron comparable to that of BCC. I think it is clear up to this.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
We can soluble up to 2.1 weight percentage of carbon into FCC. But the moment you try to add carbon into BCC iron, it will be very less. It will be very less. I'll show you that when I will discuss about iron carbon phase diagram. Okay. So this is again important. Okay, why I am talking about solubility? Because anybody can guess why? Suppose I am adding carbon into the iron. For what purpose? To enhance the strength, actually, right? Because pure iron is ductile. If you add any alloying element into pure iron, the strength will increase. So if you add a very little amount of carbon into the pure iron, the strength will increase to a large extent. The strength means I am talking about yield strength and tensile strength. We will discuss maybe in coming lectures. So it is okay. So that means this is one part. This is one part, solubility part. And many things are there. This is not the right time to discuss this one. Again, grain refinement. Okay, this is a very interesting point. Grain refinement. So let me tell you, suppose you have aluminium in one hand and in another hand you have iron, for example, or steel. Let it be steel because steel is also iron having some alloying elements. Okay. So now suppose you want to refine the grain. Grain refinement means what? I have told you many times. Can you tell me, anybody tell me what is the meaning of grain refinement? We want to reduce the size of the grain. It is okay. Why? Because these are if you remember, metallic materials are crystalline in nature. They consist of lot of crystals, a lot of grain and grain boundaries. It is okay. So if you can reduce the size of the grain, what will happen? What is the benefit we'll get? Nobody have remember what is the benefit of reducing the size of the grain?
Sir, mechanical properties will increase.
Yes, the strength and hardness will increase. Okay. If we can refine the grain, we can increase the strength only. We can increase the toughness also. The toughness and strength and hardness will be increased just by decreasing the size of the grain. Just make a note of this one. This is very important. This is one of the best way to increase the strength of a metallic materials or an alloy, basically, right? We do not have to add any kind of alloying element, but we can increase the strength, we can increase the hardness, we can increase the toughness just by refining the grain size, just by reducing the size of the grain. to a smaller. It is okay. So yeah, what I am asking right now, yeah, in one hand we have aluminum, in other hand we have iron. So by doing a heat treatment, we cannot refine the size of the aluminum, because aluminum, okay fine, this is one part, but by doing a heat treatment we can refine the size of the grain of iron or steel. Why? Because of this kind of phase transformations. We can have this kind of phase transformation in case of iron and steel, but in aluminum the crystal structure will not change. How many of you remember what is the crystal structure of aluminum and what is the melting point of aluminum?
So aluminum FCC.
FCC structure.
Very good. Aluminum is FCC. So how to remember this one? Any point I have told you in the previous class? Because aluminum is highly ductile. It is okay. Ductile metals belongs to FCC, like copper, aluminum, gold. Okay. Okay, what is the melting point of aluminum? It is basically 660 degrees centigrade. Fine. So that means from the room temperature to 660 degrees centigrade, aluminum is basically phase center cubic structure. That means it is not showing any kind of phase transformation. It is not showing any kind of change in crystal structure with change in temperature. But iron is showing, or steel is showing this kind of characteristics. So we can refine the grain size by applying this phase transformation. This is not the right time to discuss that. I'll tell you again in the coming lecture. So just you have to remember this point. This is a very interesting point. Okay, next one is magnetism. Okay, you people have remembered this one. How magnetism is changing? Anybody remember? Which one is magnetic? BCC iron or FCC iron? And which one is?
Sir, BCC iron.
Yes, BCC iron is magnetic. But low temperature BCC or high temperature BCC basically?
Low temperature.
Low temperature, yes. You have to remember, magnetic behavior basically increases. That means the paramagnetic materials become ferromagnetic materials if we go to low temperature. In other way, if you increase the temperature, the ferromagnetic materials become paramagnetic, right? You have to remember this one. That is the borderline is Curie temperature. You have to remember, right? So below the Curie temperature, material become ferromagnetic. Above Curie temperature, it becomes paramagnetic, right? So basically, room temperature BCC iron is paramagnetic, not ferromagnetic, but that is below. You have to remember 760. It is basically like, yes, below 768 degrees centigrade. You have to remember that. Below 768 degrees centigrade, the paramagnetic BCC iron becomes ferromagnetic BCC iron. You have to remember. But above 768, even if it is in BCC, but it is paramagnetic. Okay, so up to this it is clear. Then, okay, fine. So now this is a very interesting. You can see the Earth composition. Okay, fine. What is the structure of Earth? Anybody remember from geography? What are the different layers of Earth from top surface to the center?
Geoid.
Sorry. The first one is called Earth crust.
So the structure of Earth is geoid.
The first layer of Earth is called Earth crust, on which we are living, right? Basically, up to certain kilometers. Then come the mantle. Then come the core, right? So crust, then mantle, then core, right? And core have two parts. One is outer core and another is the inner core. Inner core is the completely center of the Earth, you can say, right? So you can see the crust and the mantle have iron oxides and other oxides. But outer core, where the temperature is very high, like above 5000 Kelvin, we have iron and other metals like nickel and other metals, right? We don't have oxides. And in inner core, the temperature is above 7000 Kelvin, where we have also iron and other metals, or alloy of iron, you can say, right? So in the top part, we have oxides of iron, but if you go deep into the Earth center, we will get iron or alloy of iron, not oxides. This is because of high temperature, right? stability of a oxide, you have to remember, stability of a oxide decreases with increasing in the temperature, right? So if stability of oxide will decrease, the metal will form, so metal will remain as a metal, not as an oxide. It is okay? It is clear up to this? Can anybody guess what is the state of this alloy of iron in outer core and inner core? State means whether it is solid or it is liquid. Any guesses? You may be wrong, no problem.
Sir, in outer layer it is
Liquid in both the cases.
In outer layer it is.
solid.
What about inner core?
It in inner core it is liquid.
Liquid.
Okay, fine. But nobody is considering this one. Have a look. What is here? If you go into the center of the earth from the surface of the earth, what will happen to the temperature and pressure?
So both will increase.
Both will increase, right?
Yes, sir.
But anybody guess why the temperature is increasing? Because the pressure is increasing. When the pressure increases, temperature increases or not?
Yes, sir. Hexagonal iron will be.
Do you have any idea why we are not making underground tunnels to reach to a particular location easily? Because of this reason, because temperature is high, because if you go down into the earth center, the pressure will be higher. Higher pressure means temperature will be high, right? And your body may be also like, you will be in compression mode. Compressive force will be acting on your body, right? That is another issue. Okay, so now anybody guess this one? What is will be the state of this liquid iron alloy in outer core and inner core?
Delta iron, sir.
No. I'm not asking about the crystal structure. I'm asking about the state, liquid or solid.
Sir, in both the cases, it will be liquid.
Okay, fine. Anyways, let me tell the answer. In outer core, it is liquid because the temperature is high, but pressure is also good, but it is not so high. But if you go to the inner core, the pressure is so high that the entire alloy of iron remains solid. Today you can have a look. The inner core of the earth is solid because of very high pressure. This is a very simple concept, right? Do you know we can convert the gas into liquid and we can convert the liquid into solid? How? Just by increasing the pressure? Yes or no? How we are getting LPG, liquefied petroleum gas? That is a gas actually, but we are compressing it to a high pressure so that it becomes liquid. Yes or no? Similarly, you have a liquid, you will compress it to a large extent by high pressure. It becomes solid, right? Anyways, so now we'll move to the next topic, that is this one. This is also very interesting. Solid crystal versus liquid crystal. So this solid crystal versus liquid crystal will tell you about, we do not have only crystals in form of solid. We can have crystals in form of liquid also. But what is the difference between them? If you go, okay, fine. Nowadays, nowadays the TV, the televisions, and the screens, electronic gadgets screens or displays are having which kind of material? Anybody, any guesses? The laptops, the display of the cell phones, the television screen display, computers display, those are liquids. Okay, earlier days basically we are using LCD, liquid crystal display, right? But nowadays we are using OLED basically. Yes or no? What is OLED? Organic light emitting diodes. Fine. So that means nowadays we are using basically organic polymers Fine. But earlier days we are using liquid crystals. So you can see this is an ordered structure. Yes or no? These molecules are present in ordered manner, but here the molecules are not in ordered manner. Fine. So this one is isotropic or anisotropic? If this is a single crystal,
Anisotropic.
very good. If this is a single crystal, then this is an anisotropic. Very good. And what about this one? If this is a disordered, then it is completely isotropic. Fine. So what I mean to say is, so this image is showing you a solid crystals where molecules are arranged in a periodic fashion, right? And this is an anisotropy. It will show you anisotropy behavior, right? But the moment I will hit it, and if the bonding will be weaker between the molecules at certain region, they will start orienting in a different direction somewhat. So we'll bring this, we can have this kind of structure. Fine. So this is a liquid crystal actually. So liquid crystals have a few orderedness and few anisotropy basically. And the difference between them is what exactly? The difference between them is, okay, how many of you have tried to push the display of your cell phones, earlier cell phones or earlier calculators or any device like laptop screens? You have tried? Have you ever pushed that with your finger?
Yes, sir.
So what you have seen while you push it, what you have seen basically? You have seen there is a change in color, change in contrast, like something is flowing away, right? If you push that screen with your fingers slightly, you can see something is moving away, right? Those are actually liquids. You will find a contrast. So the simple way to define liquid crystals from solid crystal is what? Liquid crystals means liquids can be flow if we apply a shear stress. A very little amount of shear stress can make it flow, right? But in case of solid crystals, if you apply a very little shear, it will not flow. So that is the difference, which I have written over here. Main difference between solid and liquid crystal is liquid crystal flow when shear stress will be acting. So for example, if you gently push the liquid crystal display, screen contrast changes due to flow of liquid. You have to keep something in mind. The shear stress should not be very high. Otherwise, also solid crystal flows. That is called plastic flow of solid crystals. Okay, now we'll move to two-dimensional lattice. So this is a very beautiful line. So two-dimensional lattice means you understand. Suppose I'm talking about your room wall or room floor. That is a two-dimension. Yes or no? The room wall or room floor is in two-dimension, right? So you can just imagine we have a two-dimensional lattice. So, okay, how many of you remember what is the definition of lattice and what it tells us? Hello? Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. How many of you remember what is a lattice? Already this has been discussed
So
in the
lattice
earlier
is a point.
Sir, the arrangement of atoms in
lattice
a
is a point. Yeah, you can answer it. Yeah, lattice is a
So lattice is a point.
point. Okay. It is basically three-dimensional arrangement of points in space. Or that is actually, you can call it a periodic arrangement of points in space in 3 dimension, right? We have to arrange the point in 3 dimension, and that should be periodic one. Then it become a lattice. Okay, if you remember how crystals form, when lattice combines with motif, it become crystal, right? So lattice basically tells us about the what?
How to repeat the
Okay,
atoms.
very good. How to repeat the motif? Very good. How to repeat the atoms or group of atoms or molecules or group of ions, right? And motifs are nothing but this group of ions or group of atoms or molecules. Those are motifs. If you combine them, then it will become a crystal, right? So 2D lattices. So 2D okay, fine. So we can have also unit cells, fine. Anybody remember the unit cells? What is a unit cell? Nobody have remember unit cells? Unit cell is the smallest building block of a crystal, right? Which we can repeat in 3 dimension, then finally it will give rise to a entire crystal lattice, right? Or it is a region of space. It is a particular region of space which will be repeated in 3 dimension, and it will give rise to a crystal structure or a crystal lattice. That means a crystal lattice is made up of this unit cell, which is the smallest building block of the crystal lattice. You people have forgotten, I have shown you the unit cells of those, different unit cells. I have shown you, if I remember. Anyways, so now this line is very important. There are only 5 possible way of arranging a regular set of point in 2 dimension, and if you try some other patterns, they will automatically fall into any of these 5. So you have to remember, in case of 2-dimensional lattice, we can only have 5 possible way of arranging a regular set of points. A regular set of points means I am talking about unit cell. It's okay? For example, if we look at the printed wall paper, and we will see here that we can have only 5 ways to print a pattern on a wallpaper. Suppose you want to print something on a wallpaper. So you just print it. It will be looking very good. But finally, if you carefully look, you will see that there will be a regular set of points. Those are repeated in this printed wallpaper, right? And those regular set of points can have only 5 possible way. Just let me show you that one. These are the 5 possible way. These are the 5 possible way by which we can get a 2-dimensional lattice completely. This is called square lattice. This is a rectangular lattice having a lattice point at the center, and this is a simple rectangular lattice. This is a hexagonal lattice. This is a oblique lattice. Fine. So these are the 5 possible way. So that means this, you can consider this is an unit cell. If you repeat this one in 2 dimension, since I am talking about 2-dimensional lattice, if you repeat them, you will get a completely lattice structure. Finally, you can repeat this one. 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 Right? Any of them you can repeat it. In 2 dimension, you will get a 2-dimensional lattice at the end. But if you try something else, suppose, can anybody guess if I will repeat a equilateral triangle in 2 dimension? Can I get a whole lattice structure? Is it
Yes,
possible?
sir. Square.
No, my question was, if I will take a triangular shape, a equilateral triangular shape unit cell, and I will repeat it in 2 dimension, can I get a whole crystal lattice? Is it possible? Or can I print it on the wallpaper, as I have told? Yes or no?
No, sir.
No. Can anybody guess why?
Because there will be voids.
Very good. Obviously, you will left behind some empty space,
Empty spaces.
right? But if you repeat this square lattice, you will not get any empty spaces. If you repeat this rectangular forms, you will not get any empty spaces. If you repeat this hexagonal and oblique, you will not get any kind of empty spaces.
So I have
Yes.
a doubt. Sir,
Yeah.
if we arrange that in a trapezium form,
Okay, if you try to arrange them in a trapezium form at the end of the designing of the entire lattice, anyhow you will get something out of this 5. Obviously you will get that, and why you will get that I will tell you in the coming lecture. I'll show you. That is actually called symmetry.
okay, sir.
Two things are important. Okay, let me tell you right now. 2 things are important. You have to choose that unit cell which will occupy less volume. It is okay? That's the first criteria. And second criteria is that should show maximum symmetry. Suppose one have 3-fold symmetry and one have 2-fold symmetry. So which unit cell you will choose? The unit cell you will choose which show 3-fold symmetry, for example, because it has higher symmetry. It is okay? And
Yes,
it
sir.
should occupy less volume.
Yes, sir.
So that my point is, if you try to make a 2-dimensional lattice, this 5 will be required. Other than these 5, it is not possible. Even if you try something like trapezium or something else, you will end up with, out of this will be there. Any of will be there. Huh. This is about two-dimensional lattice. Okay, fine. Next is, okay, the best example of two-dimensional lattice is, anybody remember? I told you something in the previous lectures. Any crystals which is of in 2 dimension, that is made up of carbon. Anybody remember? Allotropes of carbon. How many of you remember? How many of you remember graphene? What is a graphene?
A single layer of
Very good. A
graphite.
single layer of carbon, single layer of graphite, for example. I have given you a very beautiful example by taking the pencil lead, right? If you remember, in the horizontal direction, it will be having covalent bonding, but in the vertical direction, it will be having van der Waals
Van der
bonding,
Waals force.
right? That's why while we are writing on a paper, the material is getting removed, the carbon particles is getting removed because of this weak van der Waals bonding, right? So single layer of graphite, single atomic layer of graphite, or single layer of this carbon in 2 dimension is graphene, right? So graphene is a 2-dimensional lattice or crystal, yes or no?
Yes, sir.
So this is the example. This one is a single layer of graphite or carbon. That is a 2-dimensional graphene. And if you remember, we can convert graphene into different forms. You can convert graphene into nanotubes. How? Just by
Folding.
folding, right? We can have multi-walled carbon nanotube. We can have single-walled carbon nanotube. What is the difference? If we fold a single layer of graphene, it will become a single carbon nanotube, right? And multi-walled carbon nanotube means we are folding many layers of graphene. It is okay?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Fine. So this is the arrangement. This is the arrangement of unit cells in graphene. This is the way where carbon atoms are uniformly distributed. Fine. And this is the lattice. Anybody tell me which lattice this will be showing, or which unit cell? This one. Already I told you graphene is a 2-dimensional lattice or crystal, right? And we can have only 5 possible way to arrange the regular set of points, that is unit cell. So which unit cell it belongs to out of this?
Hexagonal.
Very good, hexagonal. Why? Because of this. What is this? Angle. How much it is? 120 degree.
20.
120 degree, right? From here to here to here to here, this is 1 unit cell. So this will be repeated in 2 dimension. Finally, it will give you graphene, for example. Fine. So this is 120 degree angle. So this is hexagonal. This one. Okay, fine. We'll move to the next topic, that is projection of unit cell onto basal plane. Yeah, this is very interesting. So which kind of unit cell this is? And what is this unit cell? This unit cell is what? Body centered cubic. Very good. Body centered. This is a cube, and we have 8 atoms at the corners and 1 atom at the center of the cube. So this is body centered cubic. And this one is
FCC.
face centered cubic. Very good. So this is a now 3D unit cell or 2D unit cell?
3D.
3D unit cell. Very good. So already we have talked about 2D. Now we'll be talking about 3D. So now, so this is, so okay. This is the projection of this one. And this is the projection of this one. Can anybody figure it out? What is this projection showing, basically? Let me see how you are using your mind now. This is the projection of this 3D unit cell, and this is the projection of this 3D unit cell on basal plane. Basal plane means the bottom plane for us. This is one plane. It is okay. This is one plane, and here this is one plane, and this is the basal plane, bottom plane. Fine. So that means entire 3D unit cell is represented in this form,
2D
this
form.
kind of projection. Okay, fine. Yeah, you can say 2D form. Very good. So what is it showing? Anybody guess? And what is it written over here? What are these?
So if we take a plane out of it in from the
Wait.
3D part, then it will be half. I mean that molecules will be halfly present in that surface. It will
Okay,
be
fine.
distributed
Okay.
in symmetric wise.
Okay. So let me tell you this you can use this kind of projections if you have a complicated crystal structure. These crystal structures are not complicated. These are very simple crystal structures. But if you have a complicated crystal structures, it is very difficult to show in 3 dimension. It is okay. So if it is difficult to show a crystal structure in 3 dimension, better to use a projection. By using projection, you can simply show a 3-dimensional crystal structure. So, but this is a simple 3-dimensional unit cell. I have drawn a projection in a basal plane. Suppose I am talking about this plane. So my point is, if you remember, in a cubic unit cell, the edge lengths are same. A is equal to B is equal to C. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
So this is equal to this, right? All the edge length are same, right? So here also all the edge length are same. How many of you remember how to represent edge length? By small a, small b, and small c. Yes or no? And if edge length will be same, then you can represent all the edge length by a only, small a. It is okay? And
Yes, sir.
those are nothing but your what? Basis vector. Okay, if people have forgotten everything. Okay, those are called basis vector. If you connect one lattice point to another lattice point, that is called a basis vector. Okay. Anyways, so now you can see. So suppose I want to draw a projection of this entire unit cell on a basal plane. I am talking about this bottom plane only, right? This bottom plane. So you can see this is 0, this is 0 position, this is 0 position, this is 0 position. And this position will be how much if this is the 0 positions? So this position will be 1. This is a unit distance from this basal plane to this one. This is 1 unit distance, right? So this is 1, this is 1, this is 1 unit distance, this is 1 unit distance. But this distance is 0, 0, 0, and 0. It is okay. And now what is this distance from the basal plane? This one? Half. Very good. Half. So you can understand this is one lattice point which is showing this atom, right? So this is half. I can write at the center. And because if that means I want to tell you, just look from the top to the basal plane, how it is looking. That is the projection actually. So these points are nothing but which points? Which lattice points? These lattice points are which one? From this cube.
So the upper ones?
Upper and below ones, because they will coincide. Yes or no? If you try to look from the top, this one and this one looks alike completely. Yes or no? So that's why we are not showing two points. I am showing only single points at the corners, right? This is showing 0 and 1 points, lattice points, and this is showing half, which is this one. I think it is clear up to this, or shall I repeat? You want me to repeat again?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. Just take this 3-dimensional body-centered unit cell and try to look at from the top. How it will look. Just have an imagination. You are looking from the top completely vertically. So this point and this point will merge You cannot able to see this point. You can able to see only these points. Yes or no? This point and this point and this point. It is okay.
Yes, sir.
And you can able to see this point only. So you can able to see all these 4 points and this center point. You cannot able to see these points because this point is aligned with this one. This point is aligned with this one. This corner point will align with this one, and this corner point is aligned with this one. So you can able to see only these points and this point. And you want to represent in 2D form, projection form. So how to represent? I am taking a basal plane. Suppose this is a basal plane. So I can show 4 points at the corners. This one, this one, this one, and this one, which is showing the bottom plane corner atoms and top plane corner atoms. It is okay. And this is showing you body center point. That is a half distance, because from here to here it is half. And this point, this point, this point, this point are 0 positions. And this point, this point, this point, this point are at 1 unit distance. So 1 unit distance and 0 unit distance are at the corners. But half one is here. It is okay now? Similarly, can you tell me this one, how this projection is coming? You try to look at from the top. Just have a top view of this 3D unit cells of face-centered cubic unit cell. How this is coming? Can you tell me about these points only? Let me see about the corner points.
So those are the upper points, so which coincides with the lower
Those
points
are the
too.
upper end, only upper points or bottom corners also?
So they coincide with the bottom points too.
Very good. So that's why bottom corner points and upper corner points will be coinciding. So I am showing 4 points only at the corners. It is okay. What is the distance of bottom one and top one? 0 and 1. It is okay. And why this point is not showing any value? Like this is half. Why it is not showing any kind of value here?
So
Anybody answer? Yeah.
also that position there is a bottom and upper point too.
Very good. Which one? Which point you were talking about? The face center top and face center bottom? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
The face. Okay, just wait. Yeah. So this point is not showing any kind of value because you can see this face centered position atom and this top face center position atoms are aligned in one line, right? And this is 0 and this is 1. So they are coinciding. So I am not writing any value because this is 0 and 1. Like here, this is 0 and 1. So there is no value. This is 0 and 1. There is no value. So this is 0 and 1. There is no value. So now why this is half, this is half, this is half, and this is half? Let me see who can answer.
So because the 4 points are present in the half of the distance.
Very good. Because suppose I am talking about this half, you can see this atom. This atom is, suppose this is 0. This distance is half from the basal plane. This is the basal plane, right? From basal plane, this is a half unit distance. The face centered atom of this side, so that is half. So you just imagine this is and the face centered atom of this plane. So this is also at a half distance from the basal plane, this one. And you consider this atom. This is also at a half distance from the basal plane. So this is half. And I'm talking about this one, backside now. So backside is also at a half unit distance. Face centered atom. So this is also half. It is okay, I think. The projections are clear.
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. Now we'll move to the next topic. That is very interesting topic. And this topic, I will repeat it again because this is somewhat difficult to understand. But if you carefully listen to the lecture, you can understand the whole thing. So different symmetry in crystals, right? See, symmetry basically means, suppose you have an object and that object if you do some some transformation, if you do some transformation of the object, transformation means you are doing some geometric operation. Geometric operation means if you have an object, you are doing a geometric operation means you are rotating it about an axis, or you are tilting it about an axis, or you are translating it from one point to another point. You will find what that object will be completely looking identical after certain geometric operations or after certain transformations. For example, let me tell you, for example, suppose you take a tiger, just you take a tiger or any animal, basically, you just imagine a vertical plane going from at the center of the tiger. So now, if a vertical plane, which is a mirror plane, basically, two-side mirror plane, then left part of the tiger will be completely identical with the right part of the tiger, yes or no?
No, sir.
It will not identical. Okay, just imagine a butterfly, for example. You take a butterfly sitting on a wall, you put a mirror plane at the center of the body of the butterfly. Two-way mirror. Two-way mirror means that is a mirror plane having left side mirror and right side mirror. So if you consider the right side part of the butterfly, that will be reflected in the left side mirror, and the left side part of the part will be reflected in the right side. It is okay, yes or no?
Yes, sir.
So that is called symmetry.
Yes.
That is called symmetry, right? Suppose you take a cube. You take a cube and you take an axis from the top center of the face to the bottom center of the face. It is a vertical axis, just imagine. A vertical axis is going through the center of the cube, crossing the top face and bottom face. And you try to rotate it. After rotation by certain angles, what happens to the cube? It will come to its same identical position. It will look alike again. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
But if you keep it up, if you try to rotate it by certain small angle, you will find it will be not identical, like initial position or initial structure. The structure will be changed. But after certain angle rotation, it will again become a completely cubic form. I mean, it will have a self-coincidence. So that is called symmetry. Again, I am saying symmetry means the object will come to its self-coincidence after doing certain geometric operations or certain transformations, like rotations, translations. It is okay? Or something else. Both rotation and translations, like that. So the first, so that in another way, I can say we can have two types of symmetry in the crystalline materials. For crystalline materials, study of symmetry is very important. It tells us a lot of things. So we can have translational symmetry and we can have non-translational. So two types of symmetries are there. One is translational and non-translational symmetry. Non-translational symmetry is sometimes called point symmetry. So you can see this is a best example of translational symmetry. What exactly it means? Translation, if you remember, translation means suppose you are moving in a horizontal direction. Suppose you take a lattice, three-dimensional lattice or two-dimensional lattice. You are moving from left lattice point towards the right lattice point. So what you will get? The same lattice point you will get after a certain distance? Yes or no? Suppose this is one lattice point, this is another 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 lattice point. I will move from this lattice point to this lattice point in this direction. So what I am getting? Same thing I am getting. It is okay? So this is called translational symmetry. So what I have written, going from one lattice point to other, reproducing the same structure, called translational symmetry. You can see this is a 6, for example. This lattice point is having 6. So if I am moving from this lattice point 6 to again same distance, unit distance, I will get again 6. If I will again move from this point to this point, again I am getting 6. So that means I am reproducing the same structure if I am translating. It is okay?
Yes, sir.
For example, you take a sodium chloride unit cell or a lattice of sodium chloride. Anybody remember I have shown you that in the earlier lectures? If you go in a diagonal position, you will find same ion. Like suppose chlorine ion will be there. Chlorine will be there. Again, after certain distance, you will find same chlorine. Again, you will find same chlorine. Again, you will find same chlorine. So that means I am translating in the diagonal direction of the sodium chloride. I am finding same atom. That means I am reproducing the same structure. It is okay. Similarly, if I will move in a horizontal direction, I will find chlorine, then I will find sodium, then I will find chlorine, then I will find sodium, like this. So I am reproducing the same structure if I am translating in any direction. So that's why I can say this is called translational symmetry. That means we are reproducing the same structure by doing translation. So basically the crystals have this kind of symmetry. You take any crystalline form of material, it may be iron, aluminium or anything, they have this kind of symmetry. Is okay? Then we have rotational symmetry. Suppose this is a cube. You can see this is a cube and I want to rotate this cube. And suppose, just an example is 6, for example. I want to rotate it. I have rotated it up to this angle. Again I am rotating like this. Again I am rotating like this. And finally I will reach to the same structure. Right? It is okay. So if rotation of a unit cell is done about an axis in the unit cell, then after certain angle of rotation, the same structure will get reproduced, called rotational symmetry. And rotational symmetry is not a translational symmetry, because I told you we can have translational symmetry and non-translational symmetry. So non-translational symmetry is nothing but rotational symmetry. It is okay. This part is you people have got this one. Can you tell me after how much angle of rotation I am getting the same, or I am reproducing the same structure? What is the angle?
360 degree.
360.
Okay. Suppose suppose I am taking a square now, for example. If I will take a I will take a cube. I will take a cube, or suppose, okay, fine, I will take a square. Cube will be somewhat difficult right now. Suppose I will take a cube. I will take a square, for example. Just take a square. You try to rotate it about its center of axis in the right side direction, like clockwise, for example. So after what angle of rotation you will come to the self coincidence, or you will come to reproducing the same structure. So what is the angle of rotation?
360 degree.
360 degree. Are you sure? Just imagine a square.
180 degree.
180 degree. Just I want you people to draw a square on your notebook, and you take a center of axis and you rotate it in the clockwise direction. You try to rotate it into the clockwise direction, and after how much angle of rotation you will reproduce the same structure?
So 0 degree, because
0 degree? How it will be?
no, 90.
90.
90, yes,
It will be
90.
90. Very good. It will be 90. That means again, if you rotate it 90 degree, you will find again self coincidence. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Again, you rotate it 90 degree, you will come into the self coincidence, or you will get the same structure. You can reproduce the same structure. So that is called rotational symmetry. You people have understood now what is rotational symmetry?
Yes, sir.
So now there is it is written over here, four-fold rotation axis. So what is here four-fold rotation axis means? There is a formula to calculate this fold. To calculate this fold, we have a formula that is represented by small n. Small n is equal to 360 degree divided by minimum angle of rotation. You could write it if you want. Small n is equal to, small n means the fold. How many fold we have? So number of fold n is equal to 360 degree divided by minimum angle of rotation. You understood why we are taking 360 degree? Because we can rotate an object by maximum by 360 degree, right? Yes or no? Because because if you rotate it 360 degree, anyhow it will come into self coincidence. Yes or no? Okay, suppose you collect a stone from the earth and you try to rotate it by 360 degree. What will happen to the stone? It will reproduce again, the structure will reproduce again after rotating it by 360 degree. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
That stone is irregular shape, right? That's why if you rotate it by 360 degree, it will come into its self coincidence, or it will come, or you can reproduce the same structure by rotating it by 360 degree. So you can take any object in the nature, or you can take any artificial object. If you rotate it by 360 degree, you will get its self coincidence, or you can reproduce the same structure. But we will not say that is a rotational symmetry, because we are completely rotating it by 360 degree. Or you can call it as, okay, fine. So if rotation will be 360 degree and you can reproduce the same structure, so what is the fold? Just use the formula. It will be coming as 1, because n is equal to 360 degree by 360 degree now.
Minimum number of folds.
Minimum
Right?
angle.
N is equal to 360 degree divided by 360 degree. So it will be coming as 1. That means I can call one fold symmetry. That object will have one fold symmetry. So you can take any irregular object, it will be having one fold symmetry anyhow. But we will not consider that one. But if I will take a square, as I told, so how, let me see how many of you can answer. If you take a square, then it will be have how much fold of rotational symmetry? A number of fold will be how much? 4 fold. Very good, because 360 degree divided by 90.
90.
Because if you rotate the square by 90 degree, you can reproduce the same structure. So the minimum angle of rotation is 90 degree. N is equal to 360 degree by minimum rotation angle. So 360 degree by 90, it will come as 4. So if I will take a rectangle, for example, let me see how many of you can answer. If I will take a rectangle and I want to find out number of fold of rotations, so it will be how much? Let me see. Just you can draw it. You can draw a rectangle and you try to rotate it about an axis.
2.
Okay, let me see. Anybody want to speak anything else? Yes, it will be 2.
2, sir. 2.
2. How? It will be n is equal to 360 degree by divided by
180 degree.
Yes, very good. Now you people have understood. Very good. Suppose if I will take a equilateral triangle now. Just imagine you have an equilateral triangle. All sides are same and you try to rotate it about an axis. So it will have how much fold symmetry?
So 1.
You need to justify that.
Triangle.
You can try it. You just draw it first. Draw it on your notebook and you try to rotate it in a clockwise, for example. After how much angle of rotation you will get the same triangle, equilateral triangle, or you will get the same structure.
The fold will be 4 folds.
Just rotate it by 120 degree. Just imagine you will rotate it by 120 degree. So what will happen? Very good. It will be having 3-fold symmetry. So if you take an equilateral triangle, you try to rotate it by 120 degree, it will come into its self coincidence. Or you get the same, or you can reproduce the same structure of the triangle again. So it will be n is equal to 360 degree divided by 120. How much it will be?
3.
3-fold. So it is a very simple way to remember. How? you can take a square. Square has 4 sides, so you can simply say 4-fold symmetry. You take a equilateral triangle, you have 3 sides, so it will give you 3-fold symmetry. You take a rectangle, we have 2 sides basically. One is longer, one is shorter, so it has 2-fold symmetry. So in this way, you can remember the things, right? You people have understood now?
So, but how does this fold occurs?
Fold, you do not understood my question. My question was, fold means here, that means how much no, times you can rotate it, because we have to rotate the object finally by 360 degree. You understood my point? Maximum rotation will be 360 degree, because as I told, you take any irregular object, you rotate it by 360 degree, it will come into its self coincidence, or it will be, you can reproduce the structure. But these triangles, these equilateral triangles, these rectangles, these squares are uniform. These are not irregular objects. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Right? They are polygons, or you can say regular polygons, if you remember.
Yes, sir.
Right? Regular polygons means their sides are same, or edge lengths are basically same. Yes. So if I will take a pentagon, pentagon means I have 5 sides. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
So if I will take a pentagon, you draw a pentagon. It will have 5 sides. If I will rotate it about its center of axis in the clockwise direction, so how many folds I will get? As in case of rectangle, I have told you 2. In triangle, I have told you 3. In square, 4. So pentagon will be 5. Very good.
Yes, sir.
Right? In this way, you can remember. And if I will take a hexagon now,
6.
6. Very good. We can get a 6-fold symmetry. So if you remember the folds, you can calculate the angle of minimum angle of rotation, so that you can reproduce the structure. Yes or no? By using the same formula, n is equal to 360 degree by minimum rotation angle.
Yes, sir.
So rectangles have 2-fold symmetry, rotational symmetry. Triangles have 3-fold rotational symmetry. Square have 4-fold rotational symmetry. Pentagon have 5-fold rotational symmetry, and the hexagon have 6-fold rotational symmetry. So if you can remember the number of folds, you can easily find out the minimum angle of rotation, so that you can get the same structure, or you can get the same self coincidence. It is okay?
Yes, sir.
Now we'll move to other symmetry. This is called mirror symmetry or reflection symmetry. As I have told, I have given you an example of animal, and you are taking a mirror plane, 2-side mirror plane. So you can see this is one side plane, mirror plane, and this is another side mirror plane. So 6 will looks like this, right? So mirror planes are present in our cell. So one side of plane will be mirror image of other, called reflection symmetry. Reflection symmetry is also called non-translational symmetry, right? You suppose, if you have any confusion, suppose you take a triangle, just draw a triangle. You put a mirror plane at the center of two-side mirror plane at the center. Center means that plane will be vertical. Plane will be a vertical kind of mirror plane with two-side mirror. Then what will happen? The left side of the triangle will be mirror image of the right side. Yes or no? Just have a look. And right side will be mirror image of left side. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
You draw a rectangle, for example. You draw a rectangle and you put a mirror plane at the center now. What you will find now? It will be a two-side mirror. So left side of the rectangle will be mirror image of the right side, and right side part will be mirror image of the left side. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
You can put a mirror plane in the horizontal direction also. Again, it will remain same. The top part, now the top part will be the mirror image of the bottom part will be the mirror image of the top part. It is okay? You can also put the mirror plane in the diagonal direction also. It will be possible? Yes or no?
Yes.
In rectangle, it won't be symmetrical.
In case of rectangle, it will be mirror image or not? Just have a look.
Sir, it won't form mirror
Okay,
image.
fine. If
It won't be symmetrical.
okay, fine. If I'll take a square now, if I'll put the mirror plane in the diagonal direction, then
So it will be symmetrical.
very good.
Yes, sir. Symmetrical.
So you people have understood now symmetry, yeah? Very good. Okay. So now we can have this screw diode, huh? This is very interesting. We have seen the mechanical screw. So mechanical screw means which we use to drill into our wall to hang something, right? So mechanical screw, what is there? It will show a rotation as well as translation. Yes or no? Translation means it is going inside the wall, it is translating, and it will rotate, then only it will go into the wall. So mechanical screw is showing rotation as well as translation. So same thing happens here also. Screw, so there will be a screw axis where you rotate and translate. Parallel to the screw, it is similar to mechanical screw only. It means you are rotating and translating at same time and reproducing the same structure which is present in the original location, right? You can see this is the 6, for example. Suppose this is now, this after rotation and translation, this is becoming this one. Again, after certain rotation and translation, it will become again 6. So this is happening due to rotation and translation. You people have understood now? Because this 6 has moved to this one, this distance. So this is what? Rotation or translation? This part only? From here to here, this is rotation or translation?
Translation.
Very good. This is translation is going on from here to here. But from here to here, it is?
Rotation.
From here to here, it is?
Rotation.
Very good. So that means, like a mechanical screw, we can have an axis in our crystalline materials. If you take a screw axis, again we can reproduce the same structure. Just it will be involving both rotation and translation. It is okay now?
Yes, sir.
So finally we can have a glide. So this glide is a combination of reflection and translation. Reflection and translation parallel to that plane to reproduce the same structure. So finally the conclusion is what? The conclusion is we have symmetry in our crystals, right? If you take any crystalline object, we will find symmetries. So two types of symmetries will be there. One is translational symmetry, where we are going from one lattice point to another lattice point and we can reproduce the same structure. And we can have rotational symmetry, we can have reflection symmetry, and we can have combination of rotation and reflection, and we can have also rotation and translation, right? So these are the symmetries we have. Symmetry means if we are doing any geometric operations on an object, or we are doing any transformation of an object, the object will come into its self coincidence, or we can reproduce the same initial structure after doing that geometric operation or after doing this operations. Fine. So these are the symmetries. So now there is an important line. Sorry. Yes.
So that glide one, can you tell the mechanism how it occurs? This
Just
glide.
look at the 6.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, just look at the 6. And you just find out the mirror image. What is the mirror image of this one? This one?
Opposite
Yes.
of 9. Yes, sir.
Reflection is going on.
Yes,
Reflection. So what I have told, reflection will be present. So this is this one, reflection. And translation, you can understand how it is translating.
Yes, sir. So, but
Now it
there
is
is
okay?
no rotation. I mean, just like in that screw one, it's
Here
translation.
rotation is not there. Here translation will be there.
Okay, sir.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Instead of rotation, here translation will be there. But in the screw one, there is rotation and translation both.
Okay,
Fine.
sir.
So now this is a very interesting line. In 3 dimension, there are 14 different ways we can arrange a regular set of points, or that is periodic set of points. Like in case of 2-dimension, we have only 5 different way so that we can arrange the regular set of point. But if it is in 3-dimension, then we have 14 different ways. So those are called Bravais lattices. So Bravais lattices are formed because of we have 4 different way of arranging regular set of points. Okay, in the previous lecture, I have told you how many crystal systems we have in total.
5.
What? 7 crystal system. Very good.
Okay,
We
7.
have 7 crystal systems. And how many Bravais lattices, as I told? 14 Bravais lattices. 14 Bravais lattice. So you have to remember, many people ask this kind of question: how many crystal systems and how many Bravais lattices? So you have to simply call, we have 7 crystal systems, that is CTOM-HRT. You remember the formula, CTOM-HRT. C for cubic, T for tetragonal, O for orthorhombic, M for monoclinic, H for hexagonal, R for rhombohedral, T for triclinic. It is okay now? CTOM-HRT. This is the way to remember in a simple way. Right? So you can take any crystalline system. Finally, you'll end up with 7. More than that will not be available. Similarly, you can take any lattices. Finally, we'll have 14 Bravais lattice in 3-dimension. But if it is a 2D lattice, then only 5. Okay. So these are the 14 Bravais lattices we can have. So can you have a look and tell me in which crystal systems we have all kind of Bravais lattice present? Let me tell you one important point. You might have confusion. What is this P? What is this C? What is this I? And what is this F? P means primitive. You have to remember. Pre represent primitive. Primitive means, anybody remember any primitive unit cell? Primitive unit cell means in that unit cell, only atoms are present, or the lattice points are only present at the corner of the corners. It is okay. And if it is C means edge center, or that is called, basically it is called edge center. Edge center means the atoms will be, or the lattice point or the atoms will be at the top face and bottom face centered, or this face or this face. It is okay. And F for face centered. Face centered, if you remember, atoms or the lattice point will be present at the corner of the object as well as at the center of the each face. It is okay. And I represent body centered. I represent body centered. This one is the face centered. This one is the body centered, for example. It is okay now? Pres represent primitive unit cell. F represent face centered unit cell. I represent body centered unit cell. C represent end center or base centered unit cell. Yeah. It is sometimes called base center or edge center. End center, sorry, end, E-N-D. Base center or end center. So this is FCC, this is BCC, this is end center or base center. This is a, which one? This one is?
Primitive.
Primitive, very good. So this is primitive unit cell. This is end center or base center unit cell. This is body centered unit cell. This is face centered unit cell, right? So now you tell me, as I told, we have 7 crystal systems: cubic, trigonal, hexagonal, tetragonal, orthorhombic, monoclinic, triclinic. Anybody remember what is this trigonal also called?
Tetrahedral.
Rhombohedral. Rhombo. You can see CTOM H, R is missing, right? So rhombohedral and trigonal are same. You have to remember that. You can call it trigonal, you can call it rhombohedral, same thing, right? So now these are the 7 crystal systems, and each crystal systems have, which one is common in this 7 crystal system, which unit cell is common or which lattice is common?
P.
P, very good. P, that is primitive. That means all 7 crystal system have one primitive unit cell or one primitive lattice. Out of 14 Bravais lattice, primitive Bravais lattice is present in all crystal systems. It is okay now? But F, I and C are different. So now can you tell me which crystal system have all Bravais lattices?
Orthorhombic.
Orthorhombic, very good. Orthorhombic. Anybody remember what is the orthorhombic unit cell? What about the lattice parameters? In case of orthorhombic, what is the lattice parameter? A, B, C, small a, small b, small c, and alpha, beta, gamma. What is the relation? In case of orthorhombic, A, B, C are not equal. A is not equal to B, not equal to C. But the interaxial angle alpha is equal to beta is equal to gamma is equal to 90 degree. You have to remember. Yeah. Otherwise, you can check it. You can have a clear understanding on that. Okay, now, okay, this is over. So I will end the lecture over here. You have any confusion or question, you can ask me.